Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Interview with Experts Season 6, proudly presented by the Malaysian Dental Student Association, MDSA. I'm Shiming, a representative from the Academic and Research Bureau of MDSA. So for today, we are very honored to have with us Dr. Anand Ramanathan, a very experienced oral pathologist from University Malaya. Good morning, Dr. Anand.
Good morning, Shi Ming.
Yeah, on behalf of MDSA, thank you for accepting our invitation to be our special guest today. Yeah, so without further ado, first of all, please briefly share with us about your background and your journey of becoming an oral pathologist come lecturer here at University Malaya.
Okay, before going into that, I would like to thank the Malaysian Dental Students Association for inviting me for this to this platform. I'd also like to thank my dean, Professor Sabri Musa, for giving me the green signal to go ahead with this interview. Thank you. And to come to your question, I did my schooling in India. I did it in Don Bosco School. It's in Chennai. And then I went to do my undergraduation in Savita Dental College, which is also in Chennai. And then after when I did finish my last exam, final year exam, uh, that evening I was at a private dental clinic working under one of my seniors. He was doing his post graduation then. Um, I worked there for a couple of months, and then I got a job in another dental college called the Raja Muthiah Dental College and Hospitals in Chidambaram, that is also in India. And there I did as a tutor. I worked for 1.5 years in the Department of Oral Surgery. Then I shifted to oral pathology for 1.5 years. In oral surgery, I was working under Professor Dr. Thangavelu. And then I shifted to oral pathology. There I was working under Professor Dr. C.R. Ramachandran. And he later on, I joined as a postgraduate in that place itself. And he was my mentor. He was my first mentor. I owe a lot to him when it comes to oral pathology. Uh, when I was doing my post-graduation in oral and maxillofacial pathology, I got married, and my better half is Malaysian. So that's how I came down here. So my better half is she's a doctor, medical doctor, and she's working in the Ministry of Health. And when I came here, then I found out that my degree, my undergraduate degree, was not recognized. So I had to go through an attachment at University of Malaya. I did the attachment at the Faculty of Dentistry, University of Malaya, called the Spouse Program, and that was for 2 years. And at the end of the program, I had to take give a clinical examination at the Ministry of Health. So I did that, and then I got my APC. But during this time, what I did was uh, actually I had during my postgraduate, I hadn't done any basic dentistry. So when I came to do my attachment, I was very rusty. So it took a little bit of while for me to get the hang of basic dentistry again. And I should thank quite a few people during that time. I also came across Professor Dr. Rosna Mohammad Zain. And she's an oral pathologist, oral medicine and oral pathologist. And she was a deputy dean during that time. And I met her and I told her I'm losing touch with oral pathology. So can you help me out? And she was very gracious to take me in, and I started my second time of oral pathology. Uh, uh, I brushed up my oral pathology with her. She mentored me. She's my second mentor. And when I was going to take my exams, she called me and asked me whether you would like to join as a lecturer here. And I told her I would love to. And then she asked me, what will you do when you come to the academic side? And I hadn't had much of experience on research. I thought it was teaching, and I told I'm very passionate about teaching. But then she told me it's not only teaching, you have another part called research. And she introduced me to research. And during that attachment time, I went through, I gained experience in research, wrote some papers for her, and then she put me into a few projects. And that's how I got introduced to research. And After I got my practicing license, she was gracious enough to take me in as a lecturer. And if not, I would have gone to the Ministry of Health to do my FIDO and SIDO. But then I did come into University Malaya. I should thank the University Malaya for giving me this opportunity to become a lecturer here, as well as the Malaysian Dental Association, which allowed me to um, come and do my FIDO and SIDO in University of Malaya. So I was again doing a little bit, the first 2 years as a lecturer, I was doing again basic dentistry. So I was honing my skills of basic dentistry again. So looks like I did my undergraduation twice. So that's how I came into this. It's all because of Prof. Rosna. I was at the right time with the right person, and that was it.
Well, that was a very long story from you, Doctor. Yeah, I believe your success comes with a lot of hard work, and that was a very great sharing from you that can be a guide for us like dental students right now. Also, we are always curious on what do an oral pathologist do. Doctor, you have a Master of Dental Surgery in Oral and Maxillofacial Pathology. Do enlighten us on what this specialty is about, and it is lab primarily, or is there any patient interaction involved?
Okay, oral and maxillofacial pathology as such, if you take it, is more of lab-based. You're going to get specimens from the oral surgeons, and what you're going to do is make them in, you process them and make sure that they are into thin slices on the tissue, and you stain and then see under the microscope to give the diagnosis. Okay, that's the challenging part in oral pathology. You have to give the definitive diagnosis. So based on your diagnosis, the surgeon is going to do the treatment. So that's a really challenging part. And you should have a very good communication with the oral surgeon as such. As well as the oral surgeon should have a very good communication with the oral pathologist so that you can give the best treatment for the patient as such. So you are indirectly helping the patient through the oral surgeon in oral pathology if you are looking at only oral pathology. So sometimes they say that about 60% of the cases are very easy in oral pathology for the diagnostic part. And another 30% is a little difficult. You might have to put special stains or immunohistochemical stains and try to find the diagnosis, dig into the diagnosis. 10% of the cases are very difficult. And you might need to take expert opinion from other oral pathologists or even general pathologists. In that way, I should thank Professor CR, who was here previously. She's an oral medicine and oral pathology professor. She helped me a lot in whenever I had difficult salivary gland cases. So tumors in salivary gland. I used to go and ask her for help in that, and I learned a lot from her on salivary gland tumors. Similarly, so there are some cases which might go beyond the maxillofacial region, which we might not have seen much. And in that case, I take the help of general pathologist. And there's a very nice general pathologist in PPUM called Professor Mann. I think you might be coming across her this year. She has helped me a lot in very difficult cases. And it's not you working alone as solo. You have to, when there are difficult cases, you might have to get the expert opinions too. And as you gain experience, it might become much easier. The other thing is in Malaysia, it is not only oral pathology as such, it is oral medicine as well as oral pathology. So when it comes to oral medicine, you're going to see a lot of patients, and that's another challenge actually. So here you have a 4 years course of oral pathology and oral medicine. It's 50% oral pathology and 50% oral medicine, and UM is the only center where we have the training for postgraduates. So I have been training postgraduates in oral medicine as well as oral pathology, and it's pretty in one way. If you see throughout the world, you'll have oral pathology separately and oral medicine separately, the specialties, but here it is together, and that makes a great sense, because if you're going to do the biopsy for this, clinically you're going to see the patient, see the lesion, then you're going to do a biopsy of that, and then you're going to make it into a slide and read the slide. So you have a continuity here from clinical to the lab. So that is a great difference from the rest of the world in Malaysia. So you have 50% clinical work and 50% lab work.
Yeah, that's a very detailed insight. Yeah, I like how you describe it. 50%, 50% is a very clear answer for us. You have completed your undergraduate and postgraduate studies in India. Do share with us your experience as a student there, and how is it different from studying in Malaysia?
Okay, taking back to my memory memory lane, down my memory lane actually. In India, it's a bit different from Malaysia. It's more competitive in India because you have a lot of people there who are doing the same course. So it's far more competitive, and I should thank my batchmates for that because they were always keeping me on my toe, because there was always a healthy competition between us. So if they are going to they're going to study, then I also need to push myself to make sure that I get my grades. So I should thank my batchmates for that. And I did my undergraduation in 1997. We are called the 97 batch. We called ourselves as Smile 97. I should thank all my friends for all my batchmates who had helped me. And I'm not very adept in clinical, especially my hand skills. So initially I struggled, and many of my friends did help me during that time, through which I learned step by step, especially the tooth morphology, the tooth carving. We have tooth carving down there. And then later on, when I was doing my tutorship, I taught people how to carve. So that's how it was. It was very nice. And there's a lot of theory there in India. You have a lot of theory, and you have a lot of patience. The difference between India and Malaysia, here you have limited theory, but whatever you have in theory, you apply. That's very nice in Malaysia. Whatever you learn, you tend to apply on your patients and on your in your practice. So that's very nice here. And the other thing is, I've been through the old curriculum and now the present hybrid integrated curriculum in University of Malaya. And if you see, the old curriculum is like my curriculum back home in India, which I went through. It's more departmentalized. So you have an endo patient, you just do the endo. You have a prosto patient, you do only the prosto work. But then when you have come to when I see the integrated curriculum, that gives a more of an holistic approach. And when I see the students, University of Malaya students write their exam papers, we might have set to a very narrow range, the answers, but then they give answers which are very holistic, and that's fantastic. I think that's the strength of this integrated hybrid curriculum. It has a vertical integration and a horizontal integration, and it is pretty nice. But it definitely can be much better, and that is what University of Malaya always strives for. Go to the next step and make it better. And we will be doing that in the future, hopefully. And that's the basic difference between India and Malaysia.
Yeah, doctor, can you still recall that during your undergraduates, how many students are there in your batch?
Okay, we started with 78, but when we cleared the final year, we are only 28.
Huh? 28?
It was not tough because it was very tough. It was not easy to pass.
See, we are very lucky.
So it was a very demanding this one. I'm sure you would be coming across it once you come to the clinical side. You are going to be always with the patient, and you are going to do a lot of handwork on the patient, do your clinical work. By the time you finish, you are mentally and physically exhausted. And this is not only in Malaysia, it's throughout the world. If it comes to dentistry, you're going to be mentally as well as physically exhausted at the end of the day. So that's how we learn.
Let's move on to the next topic of the day. You have a specific research area of interest on oral cancer. So what sparked your interest in this topic, and what is the most challenging aspect that you face in the research?
Yeah, I did talk to you about my second mentor, Prof. Rosna. And she was working in oral cancer, and we had Malaysian oral cancer tissue bank and database system which is coordinated by the Oral Cancer Research and Coordinating Center, which is at the Faculty of Dentistry, University of Malaya, and she was the head for that. And when I started my pathology training with her, I was doing the diagnostic pathology cases with her. I used to read after she gives her diagnosis. She used to pass me the slides, and I used to read. That was one side we were doing, and we were also doing this research project. And most of the research project we were doing were on oral cancer. So that's how I came into oral cancer and oral potentially malignant disorders. And you asked about the challenges we faced. There are numerous challenges which we faced actually. And for example, is the data. We were trying to get the database. So we are trying to get all the data for these oral cancer patients, and that was a big challenge. I started in 2010, and still I'm collecting data for patients, and because you have to collect the survival data and so on, that's a big challenge we have faced. And there are numerous other challenges also we have faced. But I do remember one lecture on research which Professor Dr. Tilakaratne, he's an oral pathologist who's here now. He's from Sri Lanka. He came when he came visiting to UM. He gave on the problems within research, and he listed a lot of problems. It could be man, money, and so on. But then the only one solution he gave for all these problems, that's collaboration. That's teamwork. So it is no more that the hare and the tortoise run against each other. It's they run together. If in the land, the hare has to carry the tortoise, and in the water, the tortoise carries the hare. So in that way, you actually tend to achieve much better results. And so I have a lot of collaboration, very good people whom I have worked with, wonderful humans, and fantastic work we have been doing. And I'm very grateful to all of them. I have worked with a big team, especially in OCRCC. I should say 3 people there: Dr. Nabila, Dr. Karen, and Mr. Wong is no more in OCRCC. He's in MASA now. So they have helped me a lot. I'm not good in biostatistics. That's my weak point, whereas they are very good in that. So I am very good in the pathology part. So we complement each other. So that way, and there's another one person who I worked with in OCRCC is Dr. Vincent. He's now in US. They've been a wonderful team. And I've had quite a few other projects with very, very eminent persons. Probably I will tell you a little later about that.
Yes, things are getting more interesting right now. Yeah, typically students like us, we actually thought that being a lecturer is about teaching only, but in reality, lecturers also involved in all kinds of researches that could improve our community. Let's discuss about cancer. Cancer is a frightening word to most of the people out there. However, oral cancer is usually detected when it has already progressed to a late stage. So what can a patient do to detect early sign of oral cancer?
Okay, it's a very nice question. This is what I have been doing the last 10 years. I joined as a lecturer in Faculty of Dentistry, University of Malaya in 2011. And even before that, I told you I started a bit of research with Prof. Rosna. And Prof. Rosna has come out with a nice learning technique, which is called spaced and repetitive spaced learning technique, which she had come out with this training and calibration for early detection of cancer, and it is called Oral Detect. And we successfully actually published a paper on Oral Detect this year. That's a training which we have been doing in many places. We have done this training for many dentists in Malaysia, general dentists, specialists, oral surgeons, people in Ministry of Health, and we also have a program called Training of the Trainers. So these are oral surgeons from the Ministry of Health who come for a 1.5 day or 2 day workshop, and we train them to identify these different oral mucosal lesions. There are quite a lot, and they mimic each other. That's the biggest problem you have. Uh, there are very similar lesions, but different treatment you might need to do, and so on. So we do this training and calibration so that every one of them is able to identify this lesion as that lesion. So that is the thing we have been doing for. I started this in 2010 with Prof. Rosna, and this is an ongoing journey still, a fantastic journey, where I have learned a lot. And we have done this program in Cambodia. We have done this program in Indonesia. We have done this program in Nepal. We have done this program in India. And at present, this program is no more. We used to do this as a one-day workshop for the final year undergraduate students in But now what we have gone further is to bring it as a competency into the curriculum itself for the year 5 students. And so you will have a one-day workshop as a competency in oral medicine, and especially in detection of early detection of oral cancer and oral potentially malignant disorders, which is now embedded into the curriculum. And was the first to do it, and other universities have followed. I've done training in UKM. USM, my colleague, Associate Professor Dr. Thomas, has gone to USM to do it. Almost all the colleges in Malaysia are now doing this program, giving this for the undergraduate final year students. So that is one way we can actually make sure that the dentists are able to detect this oral cancer lesions at an early stage. That's one. The other thing is I've worked with in a multi-country project under Prof. Rosna, and this project was on adjunct diagnostic tools, and we used an autofluorescence imaging tool which is called WellScope. And initially I was given this WellScope, and they asked me to do. I had no idea. I went through a very steep learning curve, and after some time, there was a workshop where Prof. Kamal Farah from Australia had come down here to teach us how to use the WellScope, and I learned it from him. I'm really thankful to him about that. And now with this adjunct diagnostic tool, I'm always called by my oral surgery colleagues to come and see whether that lesion is sinister or not. So that's an adjunct diagnostic tool which we have done, and it was a multi-country project with Indonesia, India, and Taiwan. We did this project, and that was fantastic. We had a great team there, and it was a fantastic learning experience we had. And now we are using this WellScope in our clinics, and my postgraduate students are also using it. And whenever the oral surgeons ask us to come to the operation theater and help them mark the margins of the tumor, we do go in as oral medicine specialist and do that. And that's very interesting. That's another way where we can help the in early detection of oral cancer. Another project was a mobile-based project called Mimosa, and this was a collaboration with Cancer Research Malaysia. I should thank Prof. Soching for this project, and she's still continuing it. We had a lot of technical issues. It's actually a mobile-based app where the dentist actually takes the photograph of the patient and can consult with the specialist who's far away. So that's how this project is, and we have come out with a paper on that too. It's been published, and it's a work in progress with Cancer Research Malaysia. A wonderful team they have, and hats off to Prof. Soching on that. And another project which I did was with Prof. Dato Ishak. He was previously in and now he's in MASA. Patients are taught how to examine their mouth and find any lesion and report it back. So this project took me to Sabah, the East Malaysia. That's the first time I was going to East Malaysia. It was a wonderful trip, and it was coordinated with Ministry of Health, where they had identified 2 villages in Kota Balud. I had to screen the patients for any oral lesions, and I stayed there for about 5 days wonderful experience I had. And I also could see the village life in Malaysia. And there were quite a lot of them who were using the betel quid chewing habit. So I was very surprised when I saw, and that was a very good learning experience also. The first time I was going into East Malaysia, into a village, that was a wonderful experience. Um, and we have been doing quite a lot of work in OCRCC on oral cancer, for early detection of oral cancer. It's some are clinical work, some are lab-based work, and we are still on the searching for better ways to actually detect oral cancer much faster. So these are certain programs which I have done for early detection of oral cancer. Actually, mouth cancer should be the easiest one to diagnose, but still we get people coming in later stage. So there are various reasons for it, because it doesn't pain. The lesions, when it starts, it doesn't pain. So usually people do approach a medical professional only when it pains. When it's just a lesion, it doesn't. They won't. And there are so many other reasons also added to it, which makes the diagnosis still at late stage. So that's something which we really are. Everyone in my team are trying to work out. The oral surgeons, the public health people, Cancer Research Malaysia, OCRCC. We've been doing that for quite some time, and hopefully we can do our work much better. That's the only thing I pray.
Wow, that was a very great sharing from you. We all know that oral cancer is not that common as like breast cancer, like colorectal cancer, but it is also worthy to be aware and prevent it. And I always admire people like you who are trying to improve awareness. Yeah. So coming up next, everyone has their own story. Doctor, you have been actively working in Malaysia for about 10 years now. What is the one unforgettable memory you have throughout your career of being an oral pathologist?
I've got a lot of unforgettable memories in Malaysia. Um, to start with, I'd never been to a prison in India, back home. But in Malaysia, I went to a prison, but not because of a crime I committed, but it was for a research. And I should thank Associate Professor Dr. Jacob for that. We had a project in prison for, again, screening for oral lesions. And that was a wonderful, memorable experience I had. We were able to pick out a lot of lesions, and we were able to report that and try to help these people who are in prison to get them some treatment. So that was one unforgettable one. Then the other one I could say is when I was asked by Dr. Aid. He's now in Masa. He was previously in and he approached me for a project where he told he needs to read pathology of rat. So, so they were doing a chemo preventive and chemotherapeutic drug, this one on rats. And that's the first time I came across, and I read a lot about the histology of rats and so on. And then we did about 2 projects, wonderful projects I had with him. And then another project which I had again on rat was with Prof. Noor Hayati. She's a UKM dean now. And with her student, they wanted to see the hair follicle growth, and they were doing something on stem cells and so on. So I started reading about the hair cycle and so on. That was a wonderful experience I had in that project too. And I've had one project with Segi College, Segi University. We've just now completed the project. We saw an enzyme level in vapors. That has thrown very interesting results for us. And thanks to Dr. Anita Krishnan in Segi and Professor Jennifer Doss in She's the head of the OCRCC. That's another memorable project I have. And now I have another project with Dr. Siti Maslipa. She's an oral surgeon, and Associate Professor Dr. Zureza. We are looking at the cancer-related inflammation, which is an ongoing project, which is very exciting for us. Usually immunohistochemistry, you do one marker in a tissue, It comes as brown color. But then I have had a wonderful experience to do two markers with two colors. And thanks to Professor Ian Patterson on that, he brought that project to me, and I still owe him a little bit of write-up on that. I should go and do that. And I also did one project with him on immunofluorescence. Three colors, three markers we did, and that was also a wonderful project, and we got it published this year. And there's an ongoing project on oral cancer histology. We are trying to look at various parameters in the oral cancer histology, histopathology, and that is with Professor Dr. Tilakaratne. He's from Sri Lanka. Then I also collaborate with some of my colleagues from the engineering department. We are doing on image analysis and certain mathematical modelings. Wonderful persons, fantastic work they are doing, and I'm very happy to be collaborating with them. These are wonderful memories I have in Malaysia, especially in the research side. If you ask me about pathology side, yes, it's been a great learning experience from my colleagues. I should thank Associate Professor Dr. Thomas George, Associate Professor Dr. Zureza, my juniors, Dr. Chan, Dr. Go, Dr. Nurul Izian. It's everyday a learning experience, and I learn from all of them actually. That's the best part. Every day is a learning experience. They come with difficult cases. I might go with difficult cases to them, and it's always a learning process. And it's not only these people. I've had wonderful elective project students. They have done fantastic work throughout this, and I'm happy to say that I've published most of them. Some of them we have not published. It's not their mistake, it's my mistake. I haven't given enough time for that. But wonderful, all my elective students, they have done wonderful job. And even my PG students, postgraduate students have done wonderful job. I had one project with Associate Professor Chenyan and Professor Dr. Zainal. We have almost finished, and the student is finishing up the writing up. And that's a wonderful project on oral cancer. So I've worked with wonderful people. Very good memories I have about my work of these 10 years in Malaysia.
The most vital questions come next. What are the characteristics should a student possess to pursue oral pathology, and what advice would you offer them?
Okay. It's not only for oral pathology. It might be any discipline, any department you want to take. It can be endo, it can be oral surgery, anything. First, you have to like it. There are two types of people in the world. One who get what they like, and the other one is like what they get. I mostly like what they get. I fall into that category. I started liking pathology once I went into it. And slowly, after some time, I started loving the subject. It was wonderful. And I kept learning a lot. It's not only I learned from my teachers, I learned from my colleagues, I learned from my students. I learn a lot from my students. In fact, when it comes to technology wise, you guys are much better than I am. So I learn a lot from you guys. It's every day a learning experience. There's only one thing constant in the world, that is change. So you have to embrace the change. And as you start loving that subject, you will have passion to it. And ultimately, you should have passion to carry on with it and if you want to achieve something, that passion should be there. So if you do not have that passion, you might succeed, but to a limit. But if you have that passion, then it will take you a lot longer. So what I would advise to anyone who wants to do any subject in dentistry or apart from dentistry, first like it, then you will start loving it, and then a passion will be created. So those are the qualities you really need to become anything you want in your life.
Yeah, okay, that is clear. That wraps up our day, and then thanks for all the advice. All right, now we come to the most exciting part. Please use 3 words to describe yourself.
Myself, my strengths, I'm a hard worker, persistent, and a team player. Weakness, take a little longer time to especially write things up.
Okay. Okay, coming up next. If you won a lottery, how would you spend the money?
Okay, I will give it to my better half.
So nice of you. What is your favorite Malaysian food?
My favorite Malaysian food, undoubtedly nasi lemak.
Same as me. Okay. Okay. If you weren't a dentist, what would you be?
I I wanted to become a medical doctor like my better half, but I have no regrets
Huh?
now. I'm happy with being dentist, and if you ask me now, after hindsight, I will still be a dentist. One thing I regret in my life is my parents are not here. They are back home in India. That's something I miss.
The next question, I'm very interested. What is the one dish that you can cook to perfection?
Oh, I can only make coffee.
Okay. What is your favorite
I'm not a cook. I can eat.
Uh-huh.
I love biryani, nasi biryani. I love that. That if you ask me to eat biryani morning, afternoon, evening, and night, I would love to.
Okay. What is one language that you wish you can speak?
That's a tricky question. Malay. I'm
Malay.
still not that good in Malay. I have to work on it.
Okay. If you can go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Could have done better on certain things. More time bound. Sticking to time. That's the one advice I would have given to myself.
Hmm. Okay. I guess we have now come to the end of this interview. Dr. Anand, thank you so much for being so sporting and answering all the questions. And I hope everyone can stay safe in the midst of the pandemic and keep on learning as much as possible. All right. See you guys in the next episode of Interview with Expert 6. Bye bye.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. It was wonderful spending my time with you. Thank you very much.